Hello, and welcome to the Diary of a Pan-African Preacher. Today's proverb is an African proverb that states, "The coffee bean you trusted is empty inside." The coffee bean you trusted is empty inside. As I was writing this episode of the Pan-African Preacher, I was drinking a cup of coffee at the time, as I do every morning. As a matter of fact, I'm having a cuppa even as we speak. I have a love-hate, bittersweet relationship with this stimulating hot beverage, as it reminds me of the unfair trading relationships between Africa and the West. Coffee production first began on the Ethiopian highlands, where ancient farmers grew crops from wild-growing trees for generations. According to the historical records, Ethiopia was the birthplace of Arabica coffee. On a recent visit to Kenya, I saw the various steps to the production of coffee on the footlands of Mount Kenya and wondered why it was that local coffee farmers were still not able to get a reasonable standard of living from their production. This was totally mesmerizing to me, as the coffee consumption and the retail coffee price have been steadily rising in Europe and in North America. A resolution has to be found, as Africa produces 170 million bags of coffee annually and is the second largest coffee producer in the world. At the rate things are going, it seems that Africa will be dominating the coffee industry. And therefore, the disparity between the cost of production of coffee in Africa and the ginormous profits gained by coffee retailers in the West must be addressed. So as I sip my coffee, looking out on the Nairobi skyline, I decided in my own naive way to answer my own question. What was that, you may ask? Well, I ask, what does Africa have to do to reverse the injustice in the $466 billion coffee industry? What does Africa have to do to reverse the injustice in the $466 billion coffee industry? I came up with 5 suggestions that may need to be done. 1. Africa has to drink more of its own locally produced and roasted coffee. There is a great need for Africans to invest in good standard coffee houses right across the country, from Cairo in the north to Cape Town in the south. It is my suspicion that less coffee is drunk in Africa than in the continents of Europe, North America, and Asia. My second suggestion is that African governments have to work more diligently with small coffee farmers and their associations at developing greater collaborations in the area of research, agricultural advice, production, pricing, and exportation. The third area, and my third suggestion, intra-African trade has to increase, and trade barriers in Africa need to decrease to facilitate the sale of coffee, fertilizers, technology, and machinery, all of those that are required for the maximization of coffee production and refining. My fourth suggestion: corruption at all levels of coffee producing on the coffee producing line must be tackled. Whether I'm in Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, or Ethiopia, the conversation remains the same, that coffee growers are frustrated and discouraged, and their earnings are stolen from them because of corruption. My fifth and last suggestion is that Africa has to increase its roasting capacity. This is where the value addition takes place in coffee production and where the majority of the profits are made. The chief coffee roasting nations of the world are not in Africa. They are in Europe. They are France, the Netherlands, Spain, and Sweden. Until these major factors are addressed, 5.5 million coffee farmers will remain living below the international poverty line of $3 a day, despite coffee being one of the largest industries globally. Tell me if I'm off my head in my naive analysis of the African coffee industry. Write a comment. This is the Pan-African preacher saying, Ashe.